Marcus Chin wiped the grease from his hands and stared at the holographic message floating above his workbench. The seal of the Galactic Council rotated slowly, its golden light casting strange shadows across his small repair shop. He had ignored 2 previous messages, assuming they were spam or some kind of scam. But this third one came with an official summons code that made his old military neural implant buzz with authentication signals. The message was simple and impossible. King Zarthun of the Kelver Empire had died 3 weeks ago, and Marcus was named in his will. Marcus felt his chest tighten. He had not thought about the Kelver War in almost 2 years. He had worked hard to forget the mud, the blood, and the screaming. He especially tried to forget the 6 months he spent in that prison camp, where alien guards broke bones as casually as humans might crack eggs. And he definitely tried not to think about the day he found King Zarthun wounded and alone in a collapsed bunker, with a plasma rifle pointed at his head, and chose not to pull the trigger. 3 days later, Marcus stood in the grand throne room on the Kelver homeworld, feeling completely out of place. The ceiling stretched so high above him that artificial clouds drifted near the top. Hundreds of Kelver nobles filled the chamber, their scaled skin shimmering in colors that humans could barely see. They watched him with undisguised contempt, their forked tongues flicking out to taste his fear in the air. The royal executor, a tall Kelver female with deep purple scales, read from a digital scroll in a bored voice. Most of the inheritance involved land, titles, and treasures distributed to various noble families. Then she paused and her expression shifted to something like disgust. To Marcus Chin, human, formerly of Earth's Marine Corps, His Majesty bequeaths the creature called Ashkara, a Vorken female, currently held in the royal kennels. The crowd erupted in shocked hisses and clicking sounds that Marcus's translator rendered as laughter and insults. One noble shouted something about garbage being given to garbage. Another asked if the late king had lost his mind before dying. Marcus had no idea what a Vorkan was, but he could tell from the reaction that it was not a compliment. Guards led him deep beneath the palace to a section that smelled of old blood and despair. The kennels were less like animal housing and more like a prison. Behind bars of energy fields, Marcus could see various creatures, some he recognized from different worlds, others completely alien to him. At the end of the corridor, in the largest cell, something enormous moved in the shadows. "Your inheritance," the guard said with a smirk and deactivated the energy field. The creature that stepped forward made Marcus instinctively reach for a weapon he no longer carried. It was massive, easily 6 feet tall at the shoulder, with the general shape of a wolf but far more powerful. Its fur was silver-black, rippling over muscles that looked designed by military engineers rather than nature. Scars crossed its body in dozens of places. But the eyes caught Marcus most of all. They were amber-colored and held an intelligence that made his skin prickle with recognition. This was no animal. The creature sat back on its haunches and studied him for a long moment. Then it spoke, its voice deep and perfectly clear, with an accent that reminded Marcus of old British poetry recordings. "So, you are the soldier who showed mercy to a king. How disappointing that you survived the war." Marcus heard the guard behind him gasp and run. He stood frozen, staring at this impossible being. The creature that called itself Ashkara tilted its head. "What is wrong, human? Did you expect me to bark and fetch? The Kelver always did prefer their slaves silent and stupid. I am neither." Marcus found his voice. "What are you?" "I am Vorka. I am your inheritance. And I am your problem now." Her amber eyes held something ancient and sad. "The question is, what will you do with a slave who refuses to obey?" The commercial transport ship back to New Terraform was not designed for creatures like Ashkara. She had to ride in the cargo hold, which the captain insisted was regulations. Marcus argued for an hour before Ashkara cut him off with a sharp bark of laughter. "Let the small man have his small victory," she said, her amber eyes fixed on the nervous captain. "I have endured worse than a cargo hold." During the 3-day journey, Marcus visited her often, bringing food and water. Other passengers whispered and pointed whenever they saw him heading to the cargo area. One elderly Centaurian woman grabbed his arm and warned him that Vorkan were dangerous vermin that spread disease and madness. Marcus politely pulled away and kept walking. In the dim light of the cargo hold, surrounded by shipping containers and engine noise, Marcus and Ashkara talked. Or rather, Marcus talked and Ashkara occasionally responded with cutting remarks about human stupidity and weakness. "Why did the king give you to me?" Marcus asked on the second day, sitting on a crate across from where she lay. Ashkara was quiet for a long time. Finally, she spoke in a softer voice than usual. "Because he was a sentimental old fool who believed one act of mercy could erase an empire's sins." "What sins?" Her eyes flashed in the darkness. My people were created by the Kelver. They made us smart so we could fight better, speak so we could understand complex orders, and strong so we could win their wars. We were perfect soldiers. She paused, her claws scraping against the metal floor. Then we started asking why we fought. We formed families. We created poetry and songs. And the Kelver realized they had made a mistake. You cannot enslave something that knows it deserves freedom. Marcus felt a cold weight in his stomach. What did they do? They declared us defective. Dumped us on dead moons to starve. The ones they kept became entertainment. I spent 5 years fighting in arena pits while Kelver nobles placed bets on how long I would survive. Her voice was flat, emotionless, but Marcus could hear the pain underneath. King Zarthon attended one of my matches. Afterward he had me released and hidden. I think he felt guilty. I think he was trying to be better than his ancestors. When they arrived on New Terraform, Marcus's home was a large converted warehouse on the edge of the colony. Half of it was his repair shop, the other half his living space. He showed Ashkara to a large empty room with windows facing the purple and orange sunset. "This is yours," he said. "You can do whatever you want with it. Paint it, furnish it, or leave it empty. Your choice." Ashkara stared at him like he had spoken a different language. "Why?" "Because it is yours. I am property. Property does not own property." Marcus shook his head firmly. "You are not property. Not here. Not with me." She did not respond, but something shifted in her eyes. Something that might have been the beginning of trust or maybe just confusion. The first week was tense. Ashkara moved through the house like a ghost, barely eating, always watching Marcus with suspicion. She flinched whenever he moved too quickly. She refused to eat until he ate first, as if expecting the food to be poisoned or drugged. Then came the incident with the plasma coupling. Marcus was working under a transport speeder when Ashkara suddenly grabbed him by the back of his shirt and yanked him out with terrifying strength. 2 seconds later, the coupling exploded in a shower of sparks and melted metal, right where his head had been. Marcus lay on the concrete floor, heart pounding, staring at the smoking wreckage. Ashkara stood over him, breathing hard. "Your safety sensor was miscalibrated," she said quietly. "I could smell the energy building wrong." Marcus sat up slowly. "You saved my life. Do not read too much into it. Dead owners are inconvenient." But her tail moved in a way that Marcus was learning meant uncertainty or embarrassment. That night, for the first time, Ashkara ate dinner at the same time as Marcus instead of waiting and watching. The attack came on a Tuesday night, 3 weeks after Ashkara arrived. Marcus woke to the sound of breaking glass and the sharp smell of ozone that meant energy weapons. His military training kicked in before his brain fully processed what was happening. He rolled out of bed and grabbed the old plasma pistol he kept in his nightstand drawer. The weapon felt heavy and unfamiliar after 2 years of peace. Footsteps echoed through his workshop below. Multiple intruders, moving with tactical precision. Marcus counted at least 4 sets of boots on metal flooring. Before he could move toward the door, it exploded inward. A figure in black armor rushed through, raising a rifle that Marcus recognized immediately as Kelver military grade. The kind that could punch through reinforced walls. The figure never got a chance to fire. Ashkara hit the intruder like a silver missile, moving faster than Marcus thought possible. There was a terrible crunch of metal and bone. The armored figure crashed into the wall and did not get up. "Stay behind me," Ashkara growled, positioning herself between Marcus and the doorway. Her fur was standing on end, making her look even larger and more terrifying. 2 more attackers appeared. Ashkara moved like violence given form, all teeth and claws and tactical precision. She was not just fighting, she was executing combat maneuvers that would make a Special Forces soldier jealous. Within seconds, both attackers were down. The 4th one was smarter. He fired a plasma round that caught Ashkara in the shoulder, spinning her around. She yelped in pain but kept moving, crashing into him with her full weight. They went through the railing and fell 15 feet to the workshop floor below. Marcus ran down the stairs, his heart hammering. He found Ashkara standing over the last attacker, breathing hard, blood dripping from her shoulder wound. The intruder was unconscious but alive. "We need to leave," Ashkara said, her voice tight with pain. "More will come. Not until I look at that wound. There is no time. Sit down. That is an order." Marcus surprised himself with the command voice he had not used since the war. Ashkara stared at him for a moment, then sat heavily. Marcus grabbed his old field medic kit from a storage locker and got to work. The plasma burn was bad but not fatal. He cleaned it, applied synthetic skin and wrapped it with pressure bandages. His hands moved with practiced efficiency, muscle memory from patching up Marines under fire. "You were a medic?" Ashkara said softly. Was not a question. "Combat medic. 3rd Marine Division." Marcus tied off the bandage. "Hold still. This is going to hurt." He injected her with pain suppressors and antibiotics modified for non-human biology. Ashkara growled but did not pull away. As the adrenaline faded, Ashkara's eyes became unfocused. The pain medication was making her drowsy. She started mumbling in a language Marcus did not recognize, then switched back to English. "The purge protocol. They cannot let us speak. Evidence must be erased." Her head drooped against Marcus's shoulder. "My brothers, my sisters, all gone, all silent forever." Marcus felt ice in his veins. What purge? Ashkara, who sent these people? But she had slipped into unconsciousness. The next morning, Marcus contacted his old military intelligence friend, a woman named Sarah who now worked for the Galactic Council. He sent her encrypted files, photos of the attackers' equipment, and everything Ashkara had said in her delirium. Sarah's response came back in 4 hours. Her face on the video call was grim. "Marcus, you need to hear this. We have been tracking unusual deaths among Vorkan across the galaxy. Every intelligent Vorkan that the Kelver Empire knew about has died in the last 2 years. Accidents mostly. Shuttle malfunctions. Structural collapses. Random violence." She paused. "Except it is not random. Someone is hunting them. Someone with resources and connections at the highest levels of Kelver society." Marcus looked over at Ashkara, sleeping fitfully on the couch, her wounded shoulder rising and falling with each breath. "They are erasing evidence," he said quietly. "Evidence of what they did." "Genocide," Sarah confirmed. "And your Vorkan is one of the last who can testify about it." Ashkara recovered slowly, spending 3 days sleeping and healing. On the 4th day she found Marcus in his workshop, staring at star charts on his computer screen. "What are you doing?" she asked. Marcus turned to face her. "Looking for the others. There are more Vorkan out there, are there not? Others who can speak. Others who are being hunted." Ashkara went very still. "How did you know?" "You talked in your sleep. About brothers and sisters. About a network." Marcus pulled up a galactic map covered in red markers. "My friend Sarah helped me track suspicious deaths. 17 Vorkan in 2 years, all intelligent ones, all dead in convenient accidents. But the pattern suggests there should be more. More who are hiding." Ashkara was quiet for a long moment. Then she moved closer to the screen. "There are 12 others that I know of. We communicate through encrypted neural signals, built into our genetics. The Kelver never knew we could do this." Her claws traced paths on the map. 3 on mining colonies. 4 in labor camps. 2 working as freighter crew under false papers. 3 more in hiding on frontier worlds. "We need to find them before the assassins do," Marcus said. "We need to bring them somewhere safe and expose what is happening." "You are insane. 1 human and 1 damaged Vorkan against an entire conspiracy." But Ashkara's tail was moving in a way Marcus now recognized as hope. "Not just us." Marcus pulled up another file. "I have called in favors." Over the next week their team assembled. First came Yuki Tanaka, a cargo ship pilot with short black hair and burn scars on her hands. She had lost her entire family when a Kelver warship destroyed their colony transport during the war. She looked at Ashkara without fear and simply said, "When do we leave?" Next was Dr. Velmoth, a Kelver scientist with pale green scales and eyes that could not meet anyone's gaze. He had worked in the genetic programs that created the Vorkan and now carried crushing guilt. "I helped make you," he told Ashkara quietly. "Let me help save your people." Finally came Rax, a 4-armed journalist from the Quillian species who had made a career of exposing corruption. His compound eyes glittered with interest. "This story could change the galaxy. I am in." Their first rescue was on a mining asteroid called Bitter Rock. Intelligence said a Vorkan named Grey Wind worked there under a false identity as a cargo loader. They arrived 2 hours before the assassination team. Marcus and Ashkara found Grey Wind in the cargo bay, a massive male with gray and white fur. When Ashkara spoke to him in the Vorkan language, his eyes went wide with shock and then filled with tears. He had not heard his own language spoken aloud in 6 years. They escaped just as the assassins arrived, Yuki's flying skills getting them away from plasma fire and pursuit ships. The second rescue went wrong. On a labor camp moon, they found a young Vorkan female named Swiftpaw. But the assassins were already there. In the chaos of the firefight, Marcus took a plasma round to the leg. Ashkara carried him to the ship while Grey Wind and Swiftpaw held off their attackers. As Dr. Velmoth worked on Marcus's injured leg, they received a neural signal from Ashkara's brother, Stormrake. He was being held in a Kelver military research facility, and his message was confused, filled with pain and broken thoughts. "It is a trap," Grey Wind said immediately. "They have broken his mind." Ashkara's claws scraped against the metal floor. "He is my brother. We do not leave family behind." Marcus, pale from blood loss but determined, pulled himself up. "Then we go get him. But we go smart, not angry." The facility was heavily guarded. They had to fight their way through security, dodging plasma fire and automated defenses. When they finally found Stormrake, Marcus's heart sank. The Vorkan male was massive, even larger than Ashkara, but his eyes were empty. Scars covered his head where neural implants had been forced into his skull. When he saw Ashkara, he snarled and attacked. "Brother, please," Ashkara cried, dodging his claws. "Remember who you are. Remember me. Remember our mother's songs." For a moment, something flickered in Stormrake's eyes. Recognition. Bang. Then it was gone, buried under programming and torture. It took 3 weeks and every trick Marcus knew to break through Stormrake's conditioning. They kept him secured but comfortable on Yuki's ship while Ashkara sat with him for hours, speaking softly in the Vorkan language, singing old songs their mother had taught them before the Kelver took them away. Slowly, painfully, Stormrake began to remember. The first word he spoke was his sister's name. Ashkara wept, pressing her forehead against his, and Marcus quietly left them alone. By the time they had rescued 9 more Vorkan, bringing their total to 23 survivors, the conspiracy had grown desperate. Rax had been broadcasting their stories across every news network that would listen. The galaxy was watching now and public opinion was shifting. Species that had once dismissed Vorkan as animals were now seeing articulate, intelligent beings describing horrors that reminded them of their own dark histories. The Galactic Council called for an emergency session. Marcus and his team were granted protection and invited to testify on a neutral space station called Unity 7. But the conspirators made one final desperate move. 2 days before the hearing, a Kelver battle group appeared near Unity 7. They claimed to be there for security, but Marcus recognized the ships. These were elite forces, the kind used for operations that governments denied later. "They are going to attack," Dr. Velmoth said, his scales pale with fear. "They will destroy the station and blame it on terrorists. Everyone dies, all evidence gone." Ashkara stood at the window looking at the warships in the distance. "Then we make our stand here. We make them kill us in front of the entire galaxy where everyone can see." The Vorkan survivors gathered in the main conference hall. They were a ragged group, scarred and traumatized, but they stood together. Marcus organized the defense with help from station security, setting up barriers and defensive positions. It was not much, but it was something. The attack came at midnight station time. Kelver shock troops breached the hull in 6 locations, moving with military precision toward the conference hall. Marcus and the defenders fought back, but they were badly outnumbered. Stormrake fought like a creature possessed, his massive body blocking corridors and buying time for others to escape. When a plasma grenade landed near a group of younger Vorkan, he threw himself on top of it. The explosion tore through him, but the others survived. Ashkara reached her brother as he lay dying. "You remembered," she whispered. "You came back to us." Stormrake's eyes were clear now, free of the programming, free of the pain. "Tell them, tell everyone, we were people. We deserve to live." His voice faded. "Sing for me, sister." Ashkara sang the old songs as her brother died in her arms. But Stormrake's sacrifice had done something crucial. Before the explosion, he had activated his neural network, broadcasting everything he had endured to every Vorkan receiver in the system. And Rax, clever Rax, had hacked into the station's communications to send that broadcast across the entire galaxy. Billions watched a Vorkan give his life to save others while his enemies tried to silence him forever. The Kelver battle group suddenly found themselves surrounded by ships from a dozen different species. The Council had mobilized every vessel in range. The message was clear: the killing stops now. The conspirators were arrested within hours. High-ranking Kelver nobles who had ordered the purge were dragged before galactic courts, their crimes exposed for all to see. 3 months later, the Galactic Council officially recognized the Vorkan as a sentient species with full citizenship rights. Marcus stood on the porch of his home on New Terraform, now expanded into a proper sanctuary. Vorkan families lived in houses scattered across the property, rebuilding their culture, teaching their children the old songs. Human colonists brought food and friendship, and children of both species played together in the fields. Ashkara sat beside him, her silver fur gleaming in the sunset. Zarthun knew, she said quietly. He knew bringing us together would start something neither of us could stop. Marcus smiled, resting his hand on her shoulder. He gave us both a second chance. That is all anyone needs. Ashkara leaned against him, truly at peace for the first time in her life. In the distance, young Vorken voices rose in song, teaching human children the words their ancestors had sung under alien stars. The voices would never be silenced again.